The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. In those days, when again a great crowd had gathered and they had nothing to eat, Jesus called his disciples to him and said to them, I have compassion on the crowd, because they have been with me now 3 days and have nothing to eat. And if I send them away hungry to their homes, they will faint on the way. And some of them have come from far away. And his disciples answered him, How can one feed these people with bread here in this desolate place? And he asked them, How many loaves do you have? They said, 7. And he directed the crowd to sit down on the ground. And he took the 7 loaves, and having given thanks, he broke them and gave them to his disciples to set before the people. And they set them before the crowd. And they had a few small fish, and having blessed them, he said that these also should be set before them. And they ate and were satisfied. And they took up the broken pieces left over, 7 baskets full. And there were about 4,000 people, and he sent them away, and immediately he got into the boat with his disciples and went to the district of Dalmanutha. The Gospel of the Lord. In the first reading we heard from the book of Genesis how Adam and Eve, the first parents, fail. So God commanded them not to eat the fruit of the tree, not even to touch them. So the first sin was the sin of disobedience. They did not listen to the voice of God, the command of God. As a result, they had to till the earth, they had to work hard to survive. And they were sent away or sent out from the garden. So this shows the consequence of sin. They were with God, they are moving freely, but now in the reading we heard, they heard the sound of God walking in the garden. Here, the meaning of sound of God walking in the garden means this is the breath of God. They heard the breath of God. God created Adam and Eve, and he breathed them. He gave his life. So they heard the breath of God. That means still there is a life. So life is moving always in their life. But in the gospel reading we hear, there are the multitudes following Jesus, and they are with Jesus for 3 days. They are listening to Jesus. They came to hear the message of Jesus. I think by this time, some people knew that Jesus is their Messiah, because already Jesus has performed many miracles. So, there are some people, they listen to God's voice, God's message. And Jesus feels pity on them, because they were for 3 days. I think Jesus might have found out their food was finished almost. And the disciples asked Jesus to send them away. And Jesus tells them, you give them food. And the disciples replied, how can we feed such a great multitude? So Jesus wanted his disciples to share their food or the provisions they had. So disciples did not believe in the power of Jesus. Already Jesus has performed the miracles, fed the 5,000 before this incident. So you see how quick enough even the disciples, they forgot the power of God in Jesus. They did not believe feeding the 5,000 just a few days before of this incident. So this is what happened in the Old Testament. Although they knew God, but they forgot. They did not listen to God's voice. In the same way, the disciples also forgot almost. Then anyhow, Jesus did not show his hardship on them. He said, do you have any food? Then they said, only we have 7 loaves of bread. And Jesus said, bring them. And once they brought and put in his hand, Jesus blessed them, gave thanks to God, and he told them to distribute. And almost about 4,000 people ate, and they collected 7 baskets full left over. This symbolizing or shows God's abundant mercy, compassion, God's blessings. Number 7 also the meaning of fullness of God, abundance. So once we are with God, there are a lot of things. There is an abundance of blessing in our life. And once we listen to God's voice, we can see the miracles. So this is what we see in today's gospel. Today, let us pray in this Mass. We have also come to listen to his message, to see the greatest miracle. The miracle is receiving Jesus in the form of bread and wine, where Jesus is feeding us spiritually. And we need to also think whatever we bring and give and put in the hand of God, God is multiplying. So the generous people are always blessed. Most of the time we don't believe with our littleness, little wealth or small things. But once it is coming to the hands of God, God is multiplying. So this is what we must have faith in Jesus. And we must also share what we have, the resources we have in our families or life. May the good Lord continue to bless us all in this Mass and help us to experience his presence in our life. As Jesus felt compassion, mercy towards the poor and needy, in the same way, let us also look at the needs of the people and have mercy and compassion and share our resources to them. May the good Lord bless us all in this Mass.